Alright, so I've been putting this off long enough. Doctor Who, Under the Lake. Just to say right off the bat, I started out not really liking this episode much, got really into it, and then ended not really liking this episode very much. So, let's talk about that. There will be some minor spoilers in this review, including a big spoiler for the end, which I will warn you about. Anyway, this episode starts out without any of our known characters in it. It starts out with a crew of minor characters who I really liked for the most part. They were all pretty cool, save for one of them, which we'll maybe talk about, but I don't know that it's really worth it. So last episode introduced a plot point that I didn't talk about because I was hoping it would get an immediate follow-up in the next couple of episodes instead of turning into another season-long arc. I don't know that we need another season-long arc after so many season-long arcs, but hey, I'm not the showrunner for Doctor Who, so what do I know? It's this plot point that Davros introduced in the last episode, the previous episode, that he knows the real reason why the Doctor left Gallifrey, that it wasn't just because he was bored, and I was hoping they'd address that here, but they didn't at all. They didn't even mention it, so season-long plot arc, yay! This was fun. This might be the first time I actually do a video review of something I didn't really like. But anyway, so we have our group of characters, and they found a Starfleet shuttlecraft, because that's basically what it was. It looked like a Starfleet shuttlecraft from Star Trek, under the ocean, outside of their underwater research facility. They are underneath a lake doing some kind of research into alternative energy, I believe it was, but it really isn't a major focus of the episode, so it's not really that important. And they have a leader who's this no-nonsense kind of guy. I liked him immediately, despite the fact that he was really tough and kind of harsh. Their second in command was this woman whose name I do not recall. I will attempt to remember and put an annotation up, but I don't know that I will. I typically don't bother learning the names of minor Doctor Who characters because regardless of how good they are, the chances of them turning up for a second time are pretty slim. Anyway, I did like her character. She's deaf, and despite being deaf, she is in a leadership role, which I thought was really cool. She has her interpreter there because not everyone in the group knows sign language, which I thought was really cool. And her disability, for lack of a better term, was put to fantastic use later in the episode, which I will talk about later in this episode. You have someone who knows of UNIT and of the Doctor and is a fan of the Doctor, which I thought was an interesting touch. And basically they find this shuttlecraft and they read these symbols on the wall, and immediately they start seeing this alien ghost figure. And the alien ghost figure causes an accident with the engines of the shuttlecraft and kills the leader. And he himself becomes a ghost, and they start chasing them around, saying the same thing, though it is completely inaudible what it is. You can just see their mouths moving in tandem. Then we cut to the Doctor and Clara. They have shown up. The TARDIS has brought them there. It's somehow a big deal. And you get what in some ways felt like a rehashing of Mummy on the Orient Express. It was just slower, the pacing wasn't as in-your-face constant, and it really took its time to develop a mystery, which I thought was really fun. This is when I started to enjoy the episode. So you get some mystery elements. You discover that whatever these ghosts are, they are for some reason unable to enter or exit this one particular room that is shielded against electromagnetics and radiation. So they use that to their advantage and trap them, and they use the deaf woman's ability to read lips to determine what they're saying, which is what was really clever about it. And I'm sorry, that is a minor spoiler, but I feel like you see it coming early enough in the episode once you see the cast of characters that it's okay. If it's not, you can feel free to dislike the video if you want. So they get some information, and now they're ready to act on this information. They head out into the water using this robot drone thing, and they find this box that supposedly has the pilot of the shuttlecraft in it. But all of them feel really uneasy about it. So the Doctor, and this is the major spoiler by the way, annotation right about here, taking you to the end of the episode where I sum things up, the Doctor decides he needs to take the TARDIS alone back in time and try to determine what happened. And he leaves everyone there, and he assumes they're safe because the ghosts are still trapped. They literally cannot leave that room. And then they're all in this room where you can see outside into the water. They're all together, and then you see the Doctor's ghost floating in the water. And he's the third person to become a ghost now. There was this jerk Corbett guy. He died after the leader got his comeuppance. It was, I guess, gratifying. Anyway, if these things are really ghosts, if you had any, thought that they were actually ghosts, now they can't be, because the Doctor, as we understand him, can't simply die and become a ghost. He would regenerate. That doesn't work now. Good, your tension is gone. Now we know they're not ghosts. There's no supernatural element anymore. There's never a supernatural element in Doctor Who, but they always manage to retain it to the end of the story. And that's the first thing that really bothered me here. The second thing that really bothered me is this just felt like cliffhanger baiting. Like, I don't know if that's actually the term, but you know what I mean. When they end an episode on a cliffhanger specifically to get you juiced up for the second part of the cliffhanger. Not because it actually serves the story. One of the best cliffhangers of all time was Star Trek The Next Generation, the best of both worlds, because everything in the first part of that 2-part episode built up to the cliffhanger. Here, hardly anything did. And it felt really cheap. It cheapened the entire episode, and I did not like it. Aside from occasional cheapness, though, the episode wasn't terrible or anything. I liked the cast of side characters. I like there was one particular scene where the Doctor, who is trying to be a nicer person, a more thoughtful person, reads from these cue cards, and it's absolutely hysterical. You have to watch it to see it. I liked the woman who took over when the original leader died. I liked her interpreter. I liked the girl who was the fan of the Doctor. And I was super glad that the Doctor didn't disappoint her by, getting her hurt or captured or killed or something, which is something I have come to expect from this version of the Doctor. And I liked the Doctor here. It really did feel like his character was working to grow as a person. That was done really well. And I do like that this season is getting back to the longer multi-part episodes, because for those who do not know, Doctor Who was originally a series of miniseries. It didn't have individual episodes. At least, not very often. And after having two-part episodes, assuming this one is only 2 parts, it really does feel like this season so far, in terms of the structure of the narrative, has been something of a throwback to that era, and I really appreciate that. Overall, though, this episode barely pushes a just barely below average for me. It would be, I think, an average episode of Doctor Who, if not for the cheap ending. And I'm sorry, maybe the second part will pick up and it'll get better. I don't have much faith that it will if this is the way they're writing the story, but who knows? We won't know until next time. But guys, what did you think of this episode if you have seen it? Do you feel that my criticisms are valid, or do you have what you feel is a valid defense for them? Either way, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. This has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.